afternoon, everybody. You're all very welcome. We're looking forward now to really show you all the basically new features that we've just released that have gone into our live system. So there's some real exciting stuff, I think, out there. So it's been a little while since we last did one of these. But you'll see there's quite a good bit of stuff that has come out, which is really, really exciting. And on top of that, we'll also give you guys a little bit of a preview about what's upcoming. So as we call it, what we're currently coding. So my name is Mark Rijke. I'm the head of go-to-market for Enterprise. And we're, like I said, really looking forward to show you some of these new features. So let's get started and jump straight in. One of the key things that we've really found, and understandably, certainly from partners, etc., that people have come back on, is the whole area around, reporting and getting insights into when you're using Enterprise. Well, how can I report on that, or how can I get some more visibility on that? Of course, as you all know, we have the grid format. You can really filter that and pull information out. You can even dump it into Excel and make your own elements there. But as you can already see here, we've started to add some further new elements. Yeah. So one of the key things straight away is very handy. We can actually minimize these now, equally with the brand on top. And of course now basically display these. So whether I want to see the 360 or just look at the analyze piece, and equally for an all transactions point of view. So this probably already gives you a little bit of a flavor here around CRM, but what I'll show you is the first sort of main one that we've done, and where you can expect to see more and more similar ones now in the future. Because when I go under services, and you'll see now set at its home screen, is we have this new option, what we call here analyze. Yeah. So this is the first main one, big one we're releasing, but do fully presume that now over time and over the next few releases, every time we're going to be looking to add additional ones of these analyze screens into the different modules. Yeah. So what's the purpose of that? Of course, details are fine, operations are fine. I think everybody's starting to get, particularly with the mobile apps, what the value can be that Enterprise can bring. But as we're collecting all this data and as we're doing the operations, it's important to know, well, how are you actually doing? And all of a sudden now here, we start having this opportunity. So as you can see, everything from my open service calls to calls by priority, how many inactive calls do we have at the moment? What's the average closing time? Calls by queue. And as you can see, a whole rate there of all these different elements that you can now get a view on. So hopefully you agree that it should be very exciting, and as we run out more and more of these, it will really enhance the solution further, really creating this sort of area where people can work on operational excellence. So whether that's as a mobile one user or as, of course, users that use Enterprise for Business One in conjunction with their Business One application. So obviously that's a big key area, and I hope you guys are excited about it as we are. A couple of other things as well. So, we made a big push as well, particularly around what I would call, say, your standard documents. So, for example, let me go to a sales order. So, one of the key things here as well, what you'll find, is there's a number of different elements here. So, where before we had a number of functions here at the top, you'll find this new element here called actions. And as you can see, we're basically now keep adding these different features to it, and obviously now solidifying them under an actions item. So for those of you that are familiar with it, self-service visibility, so this is all around Customer One, making a sales order visible for one of your end customers in Customer One. The whole share feature, so do you want to send it as an email, etc. Download a PDF now as well, though. And one of the key things, and I think this is, while sometimes a small thing, it's a real key thing, because it's one of the key strengths in Business One as well, is that throughout the application and the documents, we can now start adding related activities to that document, as you would in SAP Business One. Yeah? But as you can see, in a nice, really quick way. So all those action points you will find back on the different documents, and you can basically now start working that through. So again, a lot of that is all around usability, and that's what we've been doing is, filtering back feedback that we get from you as partners, from the customers, and trying to build it in, making it really slick and, allowing us to really create a really, intense end user experience. So equally to that, you know, one of those simple things that will make all the difference in the world, and I'll show you now when I basically create a new sales order, but it's on the different documents. So let me show you just another little element as well. So most of you hopefully are familiar with this, the fact that we can do text lines and not only product lines on the document, but equally now when we do an add line, you know, we pick our different products. So let me just pick a product here. Something like a bracelet, for example, you know, checks the warehouses, put in a quantity, allows me to pick the warehouse. Well, it loads in the general warehouse, that's good. All these elements, okay? What it used to be is I'd click add and it bring me back to the main screen. But one of the nice things now is I can click add additional item and allow me to straight away start looking for the next product that I want to add to the order. And so I can continue and continue. So again, just a small feature, but really quite from a usability point of view, you know, with a big implication. So again, you'll find other features there as well because we won't even get around to covering all of it today. So do keep note, particularly of the updates we send out or any follow-up how-to videos, etc., that we will do. But hopefully you'll see that particularly on the documents, there's a real increase in this kind of usability side. So on the one side we have the documents, but also then under service, not only the analyze screen, but basically if I go to my service calls in an equal manner. So let me just open an existing service call there. Yeah? Again, we have that actions feature now, so we have these additional features and they're all grouped underneath in one area. So again, from a usability point of view, should really help us sort of related to that. But what you'll also see here now is create transactions. So like in SAP Business One, I can now directly create a sales order. So you order something for the client or a sales delivery against a service call. Of course, we already have that meshable concept in the mobile app for service, where from service you could directly create an order or do a delivery via van delivery. But now we can do it here on the web as well. One neat thing as well, you might see that straight away here. Again, the usability feature, I can now lock by customer. So when I'm now scrolling through, yeah, instead of going from service call to service call, it will do it for this specific customer. Again, just about usability and making it really easy. Let's also look at another element around service calls, and let me create a new service call when I come up here. Again, this was something that's already been there a little while, but I just wanted to make sure that I brought it under your attention. So if we create a new service call from a usability point of view, again, you know, the fact that very quickly here, for example, I can simply add on the plus button in a simple way a new contact person, because somebody rings in, you log a service call for them, yeah, but it's that whole feature of, okay, I need to capture an additional contact. So now it makes it really easy and quick to do it directly from where the user is and where they would be, you know, sort of interacting with the system. So again, you know, it's all about creating that usability element and really driving that through. So some of those are, and as you can see, I kind of grouped them all under the usability side, but very much, you know, all the time we're trying to add these features to really help the adoption and creating a better experience for the end user. So one big element though, and that's where I really hope to spend the time on today, is going to be in our stock area. Okay, so again, this is now on the live system, so available to you as of today. So as you can see, when I now go into the stock area, all of a sudden I have a good few additional features available here, right? So where's all this coming from? So whether you're a Mobile One customer and you're really running your business completely on this, or for Business One, but where, you know, let me give you a couple of scenarios. It could be in a retail situation because you integrated with Square. You know, it could be a multi-site company. You have multiple warehouses, etc. What a lot of people have always found over time, and I certainly have the experience with as well as a VAR, is that, you know, there's certain actions, particularly around inventory management, where, you know, you have certain users, it could be in a warehouse, etc., that all they would really do is maybe a stock transfer or do a receipt, or you want to do a stock take. And as of today, You either then get them a SAP license, which for the functions they would do is probably a bit overkill, or in the end they don't interact with the system. And you could end up with these things where you print out a stock take list, you give it to them, they go off and capture it, and then somebody needs to administer it. Yeah? Equally, to make quick adjustments, etc. So that's very much what we focus on, to just bring that base level back here in the basically stock side. So we have goods receipt and goods issue, that has already gone live. So very much just to be able to say, well, look, if somebody's in the warehouse, they did a count, or for whatever reason they need to make an adjustment, they can now do so. But what we've now also released is stock transfer, stock take and stock posting, and posting report. And we'll go and have a quick look at those. Yeah. So stock transfer does what it says in the tin. It's very much where it now allows us basically to transfer an item from one warehouse to the next. Yeah. So now it really opens up this possibility of obviously multi-warehouse setups, like I said, retail situations where you might have stores and you want to track the inventory in the different stores, etc. And we can now capture, a lot more of the simple element of the processes on an enterprise level. So basically here, what we can do, your typical element of, let me pick a product, and where I can now say from and to which warehouse. Now, one quite neat thing, so say I take the general warehouse, you see beneath here straight away, it actually captures that and says if you select the general warehouse, you currently have 145 in stock there, and this is currently, because I haven't filled in anything yet, after the transfer what you'll be left with. And when I pick the other warehouse, let me see, typical, pick this guy, we can now start saying, okay, we're going to transfer 12. So as you can see, it will actually now show me what those different quantities are and what the end result is of this stock transfer. Yeah? So obviously in a very neat way, being able to do that. And of course, I can do multiple lines as you would be able to do in Business One. So I can create a larger stock transfer. Yeah? But let me show you something else as well, which I think is really neat around this. Because what's the, very much the typical thing is, I need to transfer something quickly. And let me take that desktop, for example, there. Now, you see there's a little icon here now next to the edit button. And when I click that, I now have what we call, your simple or quick stock transfer. So very quickly, immediately here, I can go, okay, general warehouse. See, there's all my different warehouses, the different quantities. And I can say, well, I want to transfer for 20 from the general warehouse to my online warehouse, or for example, to shop one. And I can simply click and it will just do the transfer. So again, it's just, quick methods to try and create that usability to make it really easy for the users to action it. So equally as well, more and more here, as you can see, elements like we already had the price lists, of course, that you could edit, etc. And we had the item groups, for those of you that are familiar with it. But now, of course, we have the warehouse list as well. Yeah. And again, we now have an option then to, change an ID or name of the ID is usually set. But for example, set a name, or particularly create a new warehouse code directly from here as well, if the user, of course, has permissions. So that's the element of the stock transfer. So all of a sudden now we've gone from, yes, we had multiple warehouses, but if you needed to manage anything in terms of stock into multiple directions, we've been able now to bring, a simple level of transaction of that back to Enterprise. So basically you have that opportunity to roll that out. Yeah? So also from here, you do have the edit then as well on the item master data. As you can see, different elements that you can update, but I think most of you are already familiar with that as well. Particularly though key is that, that wasn't one of the last updates, is the fact that you can now use serial numbers as well in conjunction with it for Business One. One other key one is then the stock take and stock posting. So all of that, if we're talking about the simple warehouse functions, would be a little bit irrelevant if, of course, I couldn't do this item either. Now let me just refresh that in my screen. See if the internet will work with us today. Making sure my wireless is there. There we go. So as we can now see, one thing, particularly for those of you that are looking at a for Business One perspective, it's slightly different here than you would have in Business One. So in Business One, you very much have this sequence of you count something, you post that away, and then you do the financial posting. It's slightly different here in the sense that we can basically do things like post all counted, which obviously makes life very easy as well. We basically put the entry here, so if it was, on hand, maybe, if it's minus 28, maybe we say, well, it actually wasn't minus 28, maybe it was minus 30, for example, yeah? And we get a difference, as you can see. And as you can see, I can jump as well, so I can do 175, etc., etc., yeah? And it's doing all these counts and all those kind of elements, and I can do a post here, yeah? What it will allow me to do, though, as well, is once I post that, as you can see, it does give me that final overview to say, well, here's your counted items. Yeah? Do I then want to remove them, or do I post the differences? And it then goes off, and it's only after that last step, it will then adjust both your inventory level, but it will then also do the necessary adjustments in terms of the financials. Yeah? So it gives you that control of getting somebody to enter the different counts, but then posting them away, and of course serial numbers will play a role in there as well if that's enabled. And again, trying to make it easy by saying, look, you can post all counted, you fill in your details, you can click it once, or you can do it sort of on a case-by-case basis. And of course, as long as I don't post a difference here, it will retain this count as it stands. So stock, of course, that's a big sort of push in terms of a big amalgamation of new functionality that we've now released. That's available straight away, like mentioned, and that really drives it through for us. So a couple of other things as well. In terms of the apps as well, one key thing we want to show you is, and I'll show you here on my mobile app, is in the Expenses app. It's the first app where we've done it. The same concept of analyze as I showed you is, again, we brought it into play also from a mobile perspective. So again, the exciting thing here is really to get some, decent information and some real quick immediate snapshots that are relevant. So whether you're, behind your PC or you're on the road looking at your mobile device. So we've done it initially now on expenses, but again, we are planning now, as each further release comes out, just keep adding to that onto the different apps. So I now have my analyze element here. So this is in the expenses app. So I can see things like how much was approved in the previous app, but also things like outstanding expenses. So I have one that, still needs to be approved or rejected. I can then get an overview of those, as you can see. I can look at my history, and very importantly as well, I can now also review the expenses that I'm meant to approve. So one of the key differences now is you can now do your approvals also from your mobile device. So that's obviously, it was on the web, but that's a big push we've done to saying, okay, well, let's bring that into the mobile device now as well, so that you can actually do that right here, right now. So I think, hopefully you agree that's, both on the analyze side, but as well as on the approvals, that's a really, a very exciting push forward. Particularly for those of you that obviously work with a for Business One scenario. Of course, for end customers, particularly expenses is something that has a wide range typically within a company, and is also as a value proposition a real interesting and an easy one to go to market with, and then build on from there. Yeah. So a lot of users in a company might submit expenses, and straight away you're going to have a very strong solution here that, as you can see, is getting more and more sophisticated. As you can see here, even I am reminded that I do need to do my expenses. And the beauty is, of course, that I can now basically go into my enterprise and simply submit them or approve them. So a couple of other elements as well, more around general quick updates. One is around our settings area. Some of you might have found this before. The expense setup was, you could say, you know, a little bit more complicated. So again, what we've done is really made a push. It used to be you had like a flush screen, and for your expense item you had an additional screen, etc. Again, we've done some real usability work here, made it simpler. It's just directly there. It's one entry screen, make it much more straightforward between basically setting up your users and how to use the expenses and what your expense items are. Some other elements of general housekeeping. So just so you know, EDS, so the way you can basically connect Enterprise to SAP to SAP Business One, does now support 9.3. So all of that is there, again, available for you. So you can, you know, make the connections there. That's all released, it's on live, and that's all fully functioning. One other element then that we have briefly talked about before, but that we're keen to share with you as well, and you'll find it on the integration, is this element called file import. Okay? So we've briefly shown this before, but this is basically where we're starting to add the functionality to allow you to bring data into Enterprise. Okay? As it stands, what we've released is supplier and customer, business partner contacts, items or products, and goods receipts. So goods receipt very much if you did, for example, an initial stock take on. So if somebody starts brand new, it's an easy and quick way to basically bring that in. So the whole idea with this is, and particularly for those of you that are partners of Business One, and if you're familiar with DTW, is basically to provide a much simpler and a method that's much easier to provide to your customers to start bringing in data. It could be updates, or it could obviously be an initial data take on. So what we do is we have, you know, the object that we select. You can then basically select a document. So let me see. I could literally just grab anything. It's a little bit irrelevant. And what you'll see as it's then ready to upload, it gives me a listing, yeah, and then allows me to literally match that to what I actually have in my Excel sheet. Yeah? And if it has sample data, I will show it here. Yeah? To make it even easier, I can also download an Excel template. So no doubt some of you, this will look familiar. In the Excel template as well, it will then very easily outline and say, look, what do you need? Giving an example, yeah, and that whole breakdown. Yeah? And as you can see, there's quite a sequence of information we can put in, but it also very clearly outlines and says, look, this is the basic minimums that you need to put in. You fill your data in there underneath customer, and then we can start doing the data import. So we've started with these objects, customer, supplier, business partner contact, items or products, and goods received. But again, we will keep extending that. The beauty of this is as well, if you do a mapping here, you can then save that mapping as well. So it will remember it for the next time. Yeah? And equally as well, it allows you to either update or skip if a record already exists. And we can review history as well of what people have done. So one other key update that we have, and I think this is particularly very interesting to partners, is one in a way that I can't really show you. But it is a very exciting one. So what we've done is, obviously everything that we have in Enterprise, all these modules, all these areas, are basically based on web technology, and in effect, we would have available as APIs. But what we've started to do is to start publishing a public API. So we've done it initially for a first set of objects, particularly focused around sales. And basically what it allows you to do is have objects available to, in effect, make loosely coupled solutions directly linked to Enterprise, and therefore, of course, directly linked to SAP Business One as well. So it's very much focused on things like, say you had a POS system you wanted to integrate, or it could be a website, or it could be another sales type system where you want to bring information in. So, you know, initially in the public API, it tends to be focused on things like sales orders, invoices, payments, pulling down products, and pulling down customer lists, those kind of elements. Yeah? We will keep extending that and build onto that public API over time. So it's literally sort of the first phase. It is available now, so the public API has gone up. But particularly as partners, if this is something that interests you, come and contact us, and obviously we'll give you more insight into it. because I think particularly for the partner community, it really creates an exciting possibilities around how you can now further integrate and even have certain elements that are specific to your customers and that are a key differentiator from you in relation to enterprise. Okay, so those are some of the general updates. There is more, like I said, we will communicate out, and you can also get the further detail of the full breakdown of all the things that we brought into these new releases, but I'm keen to focus on some of these key main areas. One thing I want to focus on as well, and we keep saying it, and hopefully some of you have had this wonderful letter with a card where it reads currently coding, and currently coding, in other words, is very much a preview of what's coming. So, quick disclaimer, as always, this is currently planned, it's not guaranteed, therefore, don't make the presumptions on it, etc., etc., and we will keep you posted in terms of what live release it will go into. But we will give you a preview into it so you can start getting an idea. So here I am in basically our test environment. So first off, as you can see, let me see if I go here. There we go. So straight off the bat, some of you might have seen this before. It's also sort of a new GUI layout that we've been working on. As you can see here, I can still go back to the traditional one that you guys know, but we're getting quite excited about the possibility of actually looking at this layout, making it more efficient, and even refining it here further, as you can see. Yeah. So again, it's all around obviously the fact that we now have the dashboards. We will be adding more dashboards, as I mentioned, but I think the key element is the services one we brought out, but currently it's static. One of the key things, of course, that we're working on is when we look at this analyze screen, and as you can see, getting further widgets on that is the key element of being able then to drill into it and actually go to the data that sits behind it. So, we've given you the initial dashboards, it gives more information, but now the, exciting part is going to be around, okay, but now let's start drilling into that detail so we can actually really find that and see what's behind us. So that's obviously going to be a very exciting area, and as I mentioned, we will be adding more and more dashboards to that. So let me, for example, see if I go here, like on elements like this, and here we go. This will be a little bit more interesting. Here. So here, for example, you can see already some, additional stuff we're working on in terms of further, further dashboards or further widgets, things like looking at my transactions, who are my top 10 customers, longest settled accounts, all those kind of wonderful things. And again, have that analyze underneath that. Yeah? Or maybe it's around leads. Yeah? And maybe it's around weighted pipeline value, or leads by stage, or how many new leads per month. So again, all of this is currently, as we call it, currently coding, but it's just to give you an idea of that's the kind of stuff that's coming. One element as well that I quite like, and again is building on this this further usability element, is, if I can see it here, now you can see under actions as well something called the relationship map. So where we start showing you what it is related to. Like you have in SAP Business One, you have the whole map, but even here, just to have that overview and the drill back of the details. And again, also all around, and I keep coming back to that, the usability for the end user is, and this is something that certainly a lot of people would have talked about, and that we're quite keen on working on as well, is, if I can show you this, under products now have the possibility to start uploading images. So we start bringing that through the application. So that's all currently coding, still to come. That's all a preview, of course. But even just to give you an idea what some of the other stuff that falls under that list, there's going to be enhancements to the sales opportunity grid, the activities grid, further improvements around that whole management of sales stages and pipeline. Things like the relationship map that I showed you, further enhancements to this public API, so we'll make more objects available, like stock transfers, for example. And, enhancing these dashboard screens and adding the drill downs. And particularly for those of you in the SAP Business One world, we're really going to push on as well things like, being able to select customers and project codes in sales documents and in procurement, so that you can really tie that whole base functionality back into the whole process. And particularly for some of you that obviously then run with SAP Business One as well. Things like we have the branch enablement. So in the web it already works, but we're going to bring that to all the different mobile apps. One key area, for example, that I'm quite excited about as well is actually bringing the possibility via your camera to bring barcode scanning in all the different mobile apps where it's applicable. So all those kind of things, and like I said, we keep adding to all these elements. We'll keep you posted on those. But hopefully you agree that even if there was a lot in this one, the next one again will have a whole rake of elements that's coming out. So last thing then that I want to show you, and again it's a little bit currently coding. So this is the first app where we've tried this, and I'm going to be straight up. This is obviously on iOS. With one of our developers playing around with it. I again run the risk with live demos, but let's try it anyway. Review expenses to approve. Oh, here we go. And I can go straight in. Create a receipt. Well, there you go with Lufthansa. But as you can see, literally fresh off the press, everybody. iOS with iOS 12. Again, it's around usability and, the playing around with some of these elements. It's all still in testing phase, of course, but trying to bring this back and bring it into usability. So hopefully you're all as excited about this stuff as I am. A lot of things that, have come out. And, lots of things to really bring to market, and particularly around the usability side to really get users excited around this. So thanks everybody for your attention. I hope you liked all these new features that are coming out. Like I said, they're on live, and we've also given you a preview of what's coming over the next period. Keep in touch, and we will keep you updated as well. And when we do the next big release again, we do one of these update webinars. So we look forward to see you there. Take care. Thank you.